We're talking today with Eduardo Perez Mota, the president of Mexico's Competition Commission, on the relationship between trade and competition. Eduardo, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit and ask you your feeling about how this economic crisis has impacted on governments' perspectives as it pertains to competition internationally and in the trade realm.
Well, my impression is that this crisis, which is one of the worst crises we have ever seen, at least in Mexico, has been an opportunity to understand that the main problems that we have are more structural, not just the conjunctural situation of the crisis. And the reality is that Mexico has not been growing for a few years already. And my impression is that one of the reasons why we are not growing is precisely because we do not have markets as efficient as they should be. And efficiency goes in line with competition. So the best way to provoke or to promote market efficiency is through competition. So my view then is that this very strong and very difficult crisis has become an opportunity to review our competition policies, not only in the enforcement side, but also in the regulatory area.
Is there a consensus opinion in Mexico on this?
Well, I can say that the president has taken the step forward. The president has announced a major reform in the competition law to increase our maximum sanctions, to put the sanctions in our Mexico's competition law in line with the best practices abroad, which is basically 10%, maximum 10% of the revenues of the companies in the previous year, the companies that have practiced those anti-competitive commercial decisions. And also the Mexican president has announced the possibility to introduce criminal sanctions in the Mexican law. That's a major decision. I can tell you that, of course, important interest groups are not happy with these ideas, but the society should perceive that this is going to be in their own interest.
You have great experience in the international arena, including here at the WTO from your time as Mexico's ambassador here. Do you sense in other countries a awakening to this possibility as you have in Mexico?
Well, actually, yes. I have been very active in the international area that relates all the competition agencies. We are very active in the OECD, but we are Mexico is also part of the International Competition Network. Actually, I am vice chair of that network. And what I can tell you is that there is a growing interest of different countries to first to have competition laws, and second to have efficient and active agencies to enforce that law. So I think that is moving in the right direction. And also there is a lot of interest to have a convergence between the methodologies that we are following in the different investigations and the merger control.
There was an attempt at the launch of the Doha round in 2001 to include competition on the agenda, and this issue was later dropped at Cancun, certainly to some extent because there were many developing countries who felt their domestic competition infrastructure was not adequate to participate in some sort of an international negotiation or agreement. Does that still hold today?
I think it's not as grave or as important as it used to be. It is also the case that any mandate that includes competition in the trade arena should include also technical assistance for developing countries. That's quite clear. And this is one of the of the jobs that the ICN is making already. But I feel that the environment is different than the one that we had during the Cancun meeting in 2003.
Has the crisis affected that to some extent, do you think?
At least in the case of Mexico, I think the crisis has been provoking a greater interest to have a much more effective actions against anti-competitive practices.
Finally, what do you think would be the best way to enhance coherence between trade and competition policies?
Well, in my view, it's not going to be easy to have in the very short term, in the very short run, something in the WTO, competition and trade. My expectation is that the development of competition rules and competition authorities convergence in domestically, I mean in the domestic enforcement that they have to pursue. This is going to take place basically in the OECD and in the ICN. But I think that competition and trade, they complement each other very well. I mean, I don't see any other two policies that are as consistent and as related as trade and competition, because trade is competition. It's about competition. Most of the topics that are treated in the WTO, they have something to do with competition. So sometime in the future, I think we will have to think seriously about the possibility to reintroduce the competition and trade area, because I think this is something that countries need in order to be able to pursue competition decisions that favor their societies, their communities.
Eduardo Perez Mota, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Keith.